Part 17. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 161. It's also the third day of the Lunar New Year, and Wen Yu is going to Kui's house. The car went to pick up Yanzu first, and then went back to Wen's house to pick her up. The old lady took Wen Xiao, Wen Wan, and Wen Su with her in the car. Even brother Feng followed the gift car. Mrs. Li is pregnant and did not go out at home. It was Wen Yu who took the initiative to ask Wen Jiao and the others to go. It's not that he's very kind. After winning over these people, I don't know what miraculous effects it will have. At this moment, most of Wu's hatred for Wen Yu disappeared. Although Wu is not a very good person, she is a good mother. At least he's better than the Wen Feng. The girls of the Wen family are all very well dressed. Old Mrs. Wen looked at it with satisfaction. Let them know each other for a long time, and then they will get married. The Wen family will be more stable. Mrs.'s great-grandfather was indeed a powerful person. The emperor at that time was sympathetic to the fact that the Kui family was almost wiped out and was very lenient towards him. So he took over the power without any courtesy and took possession of a lot of family property. Strongly laid the foundation of the Kui family. The Kui family's house is located in the best location in the capital and is one of the oldest. The ancestors have laid the foundation, and the descendants will stick to it. Any more will cause trouble. So Mrsg's father, Governor Kui, was in his 60s, with a rosy face and very good health, but he retired early. The eldest son took over the authority. The second son serves in the Ministry of War. The two of them echoed each other and worked well together. On the contrary, the fourth son is a dandy, well connected in all directions in the capital, and very popular. Mrs. Kui gave birth to 3 sons. They were serious and straightforward and took charge of the Kui family. Mrs. Kui gave birth to 2 sons. She was chosen by her mother-in-law. She was excellent at piano and chess and was in the middle age of literature and art. It's the decoration of the Kui family. Kui Siyi is the most handsome. Although he is a dandy, he and his wife Wei, the county magistrate, are childhood sweethearts. The two had a great relationship and gave birth to a son and a daughter. Daughter Yuan, just like Mrsg, is a red flower among green leaves, and is particularly favored at home. When Mrsg returned to her hometown, she wanted to take Yuan with her, but everyone opposed it. There are only 4 brothers, and they are free and free. I hope my daughter can be knowledgeable. So, secretly encouraged Yuan. Yuan is in my heart, so I have to make trouble. That was why she and Mrsg took this trip. As soon as the Wen family arrived, the housekeeper and the girls came out to greet them. Enter the second gate, which is the garden. The living room is in the middle of the garden. There are several large rooms where people can talk, eat, listen to music and so on. As soon as I approached the living room, I heard the laughter inside. The girl called in, and Yuan ran out first. Sister Zuzu. Sister Au. When she came up, she pulled Yanzu and jumped up and down. You guys are here, I miss you so much. Followed by Mrsg and Mrs. Kui. Old Mrs. Wen. Mrsg. Old Mrs. Wen smiled broadly. The two parties had seen the ceremony, and Mrsg was standing in front of the sisters. It was the new year, and she had bright clothes and more jewelry. This girl is really pleasing to the eye from head to toe. Mrs. Kui also saw Wen Yu and glanced at her sister-in-law in surprise. She had a pretty good eye. Mrsg saw the look in her second sister-in-law's eyes, and then thought about what her son told her, and smiled widely. Old lady, please come in. Those who are here today are all close friends. There are not many people here, they are all young boys, playing in the front. As soon as they entered the room, Mrs. Kui and the fourth madam also came up anxiously to see Wen Yu. They had taken care of this matter a lot before, but the sister-in-law said that she liked the girl from the Chin family. There is nothing we can do. When I came back this time, I failed to talk to the Chin family. If you don't achieve anything, you won't succeed. There are many good things. As a result, my sister-in-law was dizzy. So, everyone yelled at me. I couldn't trust her vision at all, and I was just afraid that if I found someone else who wasn't good enough, I would also miss her beautiful nephew. That's really unbearable. As soon as I saw it, my eyes lit up. Not to mention how good looking she is, with so many eyes watching her, she can still be generous. Not bad. Mrs. Kui's usual cold face became much warmer. Yes. Feng Ying, this little girl, was born in Zhejiang. The second lady nodded. Yes. My little sister has good taste. Mrs. Wen, these little girls in your family are all so charming. You are lucky, this is the truth. She wanted to have a daughter, but she couldn't. Realize it? Wen Jiao and a few others received so many compliments when they came in. Although they were a little timid, they still smiled brightly. County Princess Wei was dressed the best and looked the most arrogant. But at this moment, she stepped forward to hold Wen Yu's hand and her expression was very gentle. It can be seen that this is a blessed and good girl. Old Mrs. Wen was puzzled when she saw it. Why are the Kui family so kind to Wen Yu? Whose daughter-in-law looks like this? Wen Yu saw County Master Hui's expression and thought to herself, could it be that she knew about Yuan? County Master Hui, indeed she knew. After MRSG finished talking to Wen Yu that time, she also realized that this kind of thing cannot be deceived. So after discussing it with my brother, I confessed to my siblings. County Lord Hui is absolutely furious. Scolded both husband and MRSG. MRSG cried and apologized, and her husband kept trying to persuade her. The two of them also promised that they would find out the real culprit behind the scenes and make her angry, and then the matter would be revealed. Hence, County Master Hui was particularly grateful to Wen Yu. What do you do on weekdays? Are you used to being in the capital? I have several nieces in my mother's family. I will introduce them to you later. Who are you, that girl Zuzuk? She is so good looking and round. Madoka keeps mentioning her. Taught Wen Yu and kept talking. Over there, Yuan is screaming. It turned out that Yanzu and she had already put clothes on the rabbit. I made 2 pieces, one is bright red, suitable for Chinese New Year. There is also one with a gauze edge sewn on it. I tried them all, and found that the one with gauze edges was more troublesome. Because the rabbit opened its mouth and ate it. Yuan yelled anxiously, "You idiot, this is not grass, how can you eat it?" The Kui family is short of girls, but the Wen family girl is good looking and well dressed. So it became a rarity and everyone was greeted. The whole place was filled with laughter, and no one paid any attention to it. Mrs. Su was even standing in the corner with a little girl. Su Minghui, I am so angry that I don't know what to do. She didn't want to come today. And MRSG didn't even say she would bring them here. In the past, whenever they were asked to come to Kui's house, her mother-in-law would talk nicely to them for a long time, and she would also send someone to give them some instructions the night before. But this time, the mother-in-law didn't care whether they were coming or not, she didn't even ask whether Bauer was coming or not. This made Chi Xiao a little uncomfortable. So he told Mrs. Su, let's go too. But how could Mrs. Su be willing to accept it? Definitely not agree. Chi Xiao's face turned dark again. His face turned dark several times when he came back this time. During the Chinese New Year, Mrs. Su didn't want to offend her husband anymore, so she decided to do it. But she walked through the door quietly, holding her daughter tightly to prevent her from getting close to Yuan. You look down on me, but I still look down on you. At this moment, Bauer looked at Yuan dragging a beautiful sister and yelling, not knowing what she was doing. She wanted to go over and take a look, but her mother held on tightly and wouldn't let go. Sue didn't even notice Bauer's eager look, because she was looking at Wenyu carefully. After looking at her for a long time and criticizing her for a long time, I have to admit that she is really good looking, and she is the kind of beauty that has no blind spots. But she was not convinced. The eldest aunt had given her a good look, and the fourth aunt, who was usually very arrogant, actually pulled her and asked her questions in a soft voice. What kind of family is the Wen family? Even before we got married, the Kui family invited so many people. When has the Su family been invited to come over these years? Who did our Su family offend? Do they think I'm a guy? While others were still talking, she was already angry like a big toad. County Master Hui I finally finished chatting with Wenyu and was even more satisfied with the girl's handling. MRSG walked around with Wenyu and arrived at MRSU's place. MRSU had a mean look on her face. Yo. These are my future siblings. Your life is really good. Before you get married, your whole family has become the guests of the Kui family. Your mother-in-law treats you so well. What a world. Besides, I finally know what it means to have the same person but different fates. MRSG was just happy when MRSU poured cold water on her. Her face darkened and she thought to herself, who asked you to follow me? When you gently hugged MRSG's arm and said affectionately, when I met MRSG for the first time, you were very kind to Wenyu. I thought you were like this to everyone. But it turns out that this is Wenyu's honor. Wenyu finally knows what good fate is. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 162. Chapter 162 Weird Things. The Kui family also has a small martial arts arena. There are indeed a lot of people here, and it is 8 degrees more lively than the back house. There were bursts of cheers and laughter, almost lifting the roof off. Chi-Wu's maternal grandfather Kui Dudu sat in the front seat, laughing from time to time and looking at the young men below. These people are the grandson, the grandson's cousins, the children and grandchildren of relatives and friends, and the friends brought by these people. There were over 100 of them. An archer, a knife thrower, a polo player, a braggart. Speaking of dissatisfaction, just take action. A group of people gathered around and booed. Chi Xiao came and sat aside, feeling very uncomfortable. Because he found that although Chi Wu was still not talkative, he was obviously much happier here than at home. Several cousins and a bunch of people from unknown families were all chasing after him. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm laughing now and then again. Instead, I sat with a few old men. Feeling really embarrassed, he stood up slowly and pretended to guide the children in archery. Old man Kui sighed secretly when he saw it. Over the years, the Kui family has tried many ways to ease the relationship between mother and son. Persuading, speaking, scolding, coaxing. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. A few days ago, my daughter finally said that she had figured it out and stopped doing useless work and let it go. She will be kind to whoever treats her well from now on. Although the family feels something is wrong, there is no better way. So, when Chi Xiao came back, he was still as virtuous as before, and no one could coax him anymore. Old man Kui was also surprised, his expression changed all the time. How could he be a general? It's really unpleasant to look at. If it weren't for my daughter, I would have kicked him out long ago. Chi Xiao had just passed by for a while when his cousin came to pull him. Big cousin, come on, let's form a team and fight Chi Wu. Chi Xiao's awkwardness came up again. I don't know how to play polo. When I get on the horse, I go to fight. This kind of fun. Before he could finish speaking, the other party said, oh no, forget it if you don't go, why are you pretending, say as he ran away. He even shouted, there's still one left, whoever comes will come. Be good. We must beat Chi-Wu and the others to a pulp. I come. I'm coming, several voices shouted, and then they quickly formed a team and started fighting. Chi Xiao feels like she has been abandoned again. In the back house, Bauer was crying loudly, and Mrsu couldn't stop her. Because Bauer saw Yanzu and Yuan, he took out the two turtles and put them on clothes. One pink, one green. It's so blinding to look at. Yuan giggled. Even Princess Wei leaned forward with laughter as she leaned over to take a look. Bauer also wanted to go, but Mrsu wouldn't let go. So she burst into tears. It was so noisy that everyone watched. Sue's face was so upset that she even slapped her. Mrsu's face darkened. What kind of rule is this? Mrsg was also anxious and directly ordered the girl to take Mrsu out. Mrsu was so shocked that her face turned purple with embarrassment. There are many girls in the Kui family who are good at martial arts. Pulling her out, her feet can't even touch the ground. When passing by Wenyu, she noticed that Wenyu had a sympathetic smile on his face. Sue almost died of embarrassment. Mrskui was still not satisfied and asked someone to go to the front and call Chi Xiao over. Hold your head and scold him. This is the first time that my aunt has shown her power to Chi Xiao. Chi Xiao was also frightened and speechless. Mrsg asked them to go back together. Bauer, she will take them back. Chi Xiao was disgraced, and Mrsu left in tears. But Bauer was heartless and stopped crying. He had fun with Yuan and especially liked Sister Zuzu. Yuan taught her, you have to call Aunt Zuzu. But Bauer refused, and even grabbed various dolls made by Xiao Luer with Yuan. The two little girls were noisy and noisy. Your head hurts. Mrsg sent the couple away, but she felt unprecedentedly happy. Have someone send some of the snacks Yanzu brought to his father. Mrsu is no longer here, so she can say, try these snacks. This girl named Zuzu is really ingenious. Look at these snacks, how beautifully made they are. We plan to open a restaurant with snacks shop. Everyone looked at it and said, is it so beautiful? There was a Mrsun present. I actually have a dim sum shop in my hands. The location is excellent and the business is good. When I heard about dim sum, my heart moved. I grabbed a small plate and put a few pieces on it. She doesn't care about the way others look at her. Taking it aside, I looked at it carefully for a long time and then went to Yanzu. Is it Miss Yanzu? Yanzu was having fun when she heard someone talking to her. I am Yanzu. You are. I am the eldest daughter-in-law of General Yuan's mansion. Look at this snack. Yanzu had been playing with the children, so the woman had not noticed it before. Now she came closer to talk and saw. Why is this woman so beautiful? Furthermore, it looks familiar. Who does it look like? Suddenly I forgot what I wanted to ask. What's wrong with the dim sum? Yanzu asked curiously. Oh. I mean, this snack looks really good. Did the girl make it according to the recipe? Some are based on recipes, and some are my own ideas. What else can a girl think about? Then this. She pointed to one of the pieces. Wenyu was talking to someone when he saw a young woman approaching Yanzu. Just as she was about to go over and listen to what was being said, Yuan said loudly, Sister Zuzu, don't be distracted. Sister Zuzu, don't be distracted, Bauer echoed. You have to call me Aunt Zuzu, Yuan corrected. The woman was a little embarrassed and stopped asking. Instead, she sat aside and studied it seriously and carefully. Wenyu was a little unhappy. How many snacks could Yanzu bring? Also divided into the front part. This woman, regardless of whether others have eaten or not, she pretends to walk away with several pieces of food at once. She looks a bit arrogant. Normally speaking, those who come here as guests will not be in trouble. I didn't know why, but I felt a little uneasy, so I went to see MRSG to ask. MRSG also saw it and was not happy at the same time, so she took Wen Yu aside. This person has a somewhat strange life experience. To make a long story short, she is the eldest daughter-in-law of General Yuan, and she was born in the Wen family. The old lady of the Wen family, MRS Liu. The mother of MRS Yuan is the niece of MRS Liu. Moreover, she is related to after the original wife divorced, she remarried to the Wen family. She also brought her here and changed her surname to Wen Xiangui. It's so complicated you have to listen carefully to Wen Yu to understand. There is something more complicated. I heard that MRS Wen loved her younger son but did not like her eldest son. The eldest son ran away from home for several years. Later, the younger son was born with smallpox. Then, the eldest son has not been found yet. MRS Wen married the little Lu from Heli and changed the surname of the girl she brought into the clan. This is all a mess. Yes. Later, Wen's eldest son was found and brought back by a tribesman from abroad, but he was seriously ill. When you listened with gusto, is it so magical? Why is it the same as what was said in the storybook? Seeing the mystery they talked about, County Master Hui also came over to listen to the gossip. He recovered from his illness, but he also forgot a lot of things. He didn't say anything about what happened to him for so many years. He refused to recognize this wife. No matter how much trouble MRS Wen made, she just refused to compromise. Later, by chance, he was exposed in front of the emperor. Face, don't tell me, he is quite capable. Now in the household department, I am in charge of a lot of things. It's awesome. He has become successful, and that coward finally dares to argue with his wife. It was not easy for Wen Xiangui to get married when she grew up. Many people despise her origin and the Lu family's mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. They were very happy at first, but they had no choice but to marry Yuan's eldest son. The eldest son of the Yuan family is ugly. County Lord Hui interjected, don't tell me, that old MRS Wen treated her like her own granddaughter. She had a rich dowry and even gave her a big shop on West Street. She owns a pastry shop, so she takes care of her. Look. I saw MRS Yuan, she opened all the snacks, looked inside and outside, and tasted them. Finally, I took out the veil and packed everything. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 163. Qi Xiao and Su went out and got in the car. This time, MRS Su was greatly humiliated. When I got in the car, I cried and quarreled with my husband. I couldn't tell you to come, but you insisted on coming. Now it's better. Are you happy to be kicked out? His voice is sharp and he doesn't care. Attracting passers-by's attention. I was actually dragged out without even touching the ground. That of the Wen family, with a smile on his face, oh my God. How wronged I have been by marrying you. But I never expected that I would have to endure such a humiliation. If I didn't worry about Bauer, I would be looking for death. What shame would I have? Her hair was messed up and her hairpin was crooked. Crying heartbroken. Qi Xiao himself had a miserable day today. He was ignored by everyone in the front and was even called pretending by his cousin. The 5 stars are holding the moon, but I am accompanying a few old men. Originally, I just showed off my archery skills and was complimented by a few brats, so many people gathered around me. But he was called over and scolded by his eldest aunt. My eldest aunt is at home and keeps telling her the truth. Several cousins are afraid of her. But for so many years, she had never shown any shame to herself. Today is a good day. He was scolded so hard that he couldn't even lift his head. For a moment, I felt confused and empty. I couldn't help but ask, why do you want to hit Bauer? In a family like theirs, if there are children who are punished, how can they beat them? Especially girls, in front of other people. Sue was having a lot of fun when her husband not only did not comfort her nor scolded her, but instead questioned her. I'm her mother. If you don't obey the discipline, what's wrong with a spanking? Sue became even more angry. You, Minghui, what you said is wrong. What's wrong? That from the Wen family brought someone else here, and he got into a fierce fight with the eldest lady of the Kui family as soon as he arrived. He came from a young family, so shameless. He hasn't even entered the door yet. Just put down your body and show off your skills. Such flattery. Damn it. Your mother still looks down on my background. I come from an uncle's house, so I can't do such shameless things. Minghui, I'm asking you why you want to hit Bauer. What are you talking about? She insists on getting in front of others. Are they taking her to play? What are you doing to get along? She is the eldest lady of the Kui family, Bauer is also the eldest lady of the Chi family. Do you need to go over and fawn over? Minghui, there's no need to think so when the girls are playing together, right? Chi Xiao seems to be different today. But Sue was still thinking about herself and venting. A grandmother doesn't care for her granddaughter, but she cares for her mother-in-law's niece. It's all my fault as a mother. I don't like my mother-in-law, and even my daughter suffers. She started crying again. Okay, Chi Xiao patiently coaxed, Bauer wants to play, just let her go. It's not as complicated to get along with a little girl as it is for adults. Even if you don't want to, just lead her away. Don't hit her. Ah. Besides, in front of so many people. Sue also regretted this incident, but how could she admit it with her temperament? Staring at her husband with a look of disbelief on her face, she has suffered so much, and her husband is still blaming her? Chi Xiao was still saying, in a family like ours, how could a mother hit her child? I have been at odds with my mother since I was a child, and there were times when she clearly said something was right, but I refused to do it. But my mother was only reasonable. Never. You still have the nerve to say that. Sue finally became anxious. If you hadn't displeased my mother, would I be in the situation I'm in today? Have you seen how my mother treated Bitch Wen? Two people in this family can't stand each other's side. Hold your arms. She screamed. Just like a crazy woman. Okay, what does it look like? Chi Xiao was also angry. Parking. As soon as the car stopped, Chi Xiao was about to get off. What are you doing? Sue went to pull him but wouldn't let him go. But Chi Xiao really wanted to leave. How could she stop him? With a slight effort, Sue's grip on his clothes loosened. Sue pulled it so tight that one of her long nails was split. The heartbreaking pain, ouch. Chi Xiao has already gotten out of the car and disappeared. Sue felt like the sky was falling. Going back to the house, I cried all the way back to my room. When Ms. Tan heard about it, she said, "Hey, young couple. They are celebrating the new year, wait until she calms down, and I will try to persuade her." After sending everyone out, he smiled, "This Sue family. Her mother-in-law has changed and she still can't tell. This brain and this temperament will suffer later. However, to use it smoothly, you still have to coax. Kui's change is because she guessed that thing, and it was my handiwork. Have you guessed it? What can you do to me? However, if she is really recruited and affects major events, then it will be a waste of time. Sigh, these years have gone so smoothly, so sloppily." The Wen family returned home happily. Each girl received a lot of gifts. Bien Wensu, who is usually calculating and pragmatic, with little mood swings, all smiled at Wen Yu. "Sister, your marriage is really good. The Kui family are all very good. Please do your best to please your mother-in-law. Ah, good things will happen in the future, thinking about my sister. After saying that, he carried his things and returned to the room. When they returned home, Yuan Shi and Wen Huan were already there. When I saw the old lady returning home, I went to the back hall. Wen Jiao was so excited that she didn't even go back to her room and took the gifts she received to the back hall. In front of Wen Huan, he opened everything. This is a gift from General Kui, saying it is for women to defend themselves. Oops, I really don't have this thing. It was a beautiful small dagger with a cowhide sheath. When the old lady saw it, she was shocked, put it away quickly. How can a girl get this? Grandma, you don't understand this, a military family is very particular about this. Look, this is a gift from Mrs. Kui, this is the second lady. Wen Jiao showed off while looking at Wen Huan out of the corner of her eye. Wen Huan didn't know whether he was really greedy for the gift or was angry at the Kui family for treating Wen Yu so kindly. His little face turned red and white. Even Mrs. Wen sighed, the Kui family is really a rare girl. On a day like this, it would be great if Mrs. Kui gave a gift on behalf of the Kui family. As a result, every one of the three ladies gave it. Grandma, they are interested in my eldest sister, how can I give it to a girl who is so far-fetched? Yes, the old lady also sighed. After Wen Jiao finished playing the harem, she packed up and was about to go back to her room. She asked Wen Huan, second sister, what did you get in Prince Wu's mansion? Of course Princess Wu also gave gifts, which were exquisite but not expensive. Wen Huan said, all the girls who went there received wrist flowers. I think this is just a courtesy procedure, not like the Kui family who specially like the girls. She spoke very plainly and in a low-profile manner, but Wen Jiao couldn't hold on to her words. Wu's favorite is Wen Jiao. Because she can figure out what Wen Jiao wants in one go. Although Wen Su is also a biological child, he has a perverted temperament. At this time, Mrs. Wu said in a pretentious manner, Jiao you have got so many. Let the second sister choose one. Wen Jiao smiled and said, my mother is right to remind me, second sister, please choose the same one. This is a gift specially given by the Kui family to the third sister. How could the elder sister want it? I appreciate it, no matter what he thought in his heart, Wen Huan acted generously. Wu helped Wen Jiao take it back to her room, and then asked in detail about today's situation. This time, Wen Jiao was good at talking. We also went to the martial arts field. There were so many people. It made the Lois eat a mouthful of noise. However, those young masters, playing ball and archery, were so much fun. It was really the first time I saw them. Listening to Wen Jiao describing the Kui family's big house, Mrs. Wu sighed to herself, Wen Yu is really lucky. In the evening, Wen Yu called Laba over, go and see what Mr. Yuan is saying to my father, what his tone of voice is, what his expression is. Yes. When Wen Qian came back, Yuan told him about going to Prince Wu's mansion in more detail, and who he might have further contact with. There is a Mrs. Wen whose husband is also in the Ministry of Household Affairs, do you know? I know. Mr. Wen Ruoqing Wen. Even Mr. Shangshu must be polite to him. The emperor values him, and he is indeed capable. No wonder. The princess is also very polite to her. Today, Mr. Li Ji's eldest son and daughter-in-law are also here, but they don't talk much. The princess is also very polite. Prince Wu's mansion and He Ji's hometown are married. The Li family and the He family are both Ji elders. We don't have much contact with these things on daily basis from now on, we should inquire more about them. You have thought very carefully. Li's parents-in-law have gone, about Huan. Wen Qian took advantage of the situation and asked. The person I was talking about at the beginning was not Nagato's young master, he was the son of brother Li Ji. It's still a long way off, She won't tell. Oh, then, are you still talking about it? Wen Qian saw that Yuan was a little calm about this, and his attitude was completely different from his previous attitude. My mother came recently and celebrated the New Year, so I haven't found time yet. Let's see after the New Year. Okay, Wen Qian knew that his wife had changed her mind. He didn't know which step he had talked about before, and what impact such a change of mind would have. Before, he would have asked directly. Now, if his wife doesn't tell her, he probably won't be able to find out the true meaning. I feel a little uncomfortable. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 164. Chapter 164 Unbelievable. On the 5th day of the Lunar New Year, Wen Yu accompanied her uncle to visit Mr. Mo's house. Uncle Mo said that Mr. Mo was good at drinking wine, so she asked Li Zhang to go to the Song family's house and ask for a few bottles of good wine. The people in Song's house estimated that their master had given them instructions, so they just sent them over without saying anything. When Yu and Yanzu arrived at his uncle's house and saw that the whole family was neatly dressed. Mr. Ma is not here. Wen didn't ask any questions, just went out in a hurry. Aunt Chen was an honest person. She asked Wen Yu and said, she fell ill again on her 30th. She was just able to go to work. Moreover, she had some unpleasant experiences with Mr. Mo's daughter-in-law before, so she didn't went. It's better not to go. She's not here, brother Rui is safe. Mr. Ma was cursing in the room, but she didn't dare to raise her voice. She was frightened by 2 serious illnesses in a row. The feeling was too uncomfortable. Am I not going to live long? No. Life is getting better, but I can't fall down. It is not okay to give others an advantage. Based on her knowledge, she did not expect that Wen Yu would be the one to do it. But he still scolded her for a long time. This broom star, I will never feel better when I see her. She was born to defeat me, just wait for me. Ouch, damn girl, you know I'm sick, and you don't even say to come and see her. Do it for me, order some bird's nest to replenish. Mr. Mo's family has prepared sumptuous food and wine. Today, there are really no other guests. Looking at Wen Yu and Yanzu in front of them, and Chen Wenjie, who became more generous. Master Mo was happy in his heart. There are no outsiders today, it's just our family. Old lady, please take out the gifts you prepared. Mo also smiled brightly. What are you in a hurry for? When you took out the wine, and Master Mo's eyes widened with a smile. Yanzu collected some needles and threads, especially the dolls made by Xiaolu. Mo's daughter was very happy. Mo originally had a conflict with the Ma family and looked down upon her very much. She even treated the Chen family indifferently. When I saw the 3 girls of the Chen family today, I felt very fond of them. Seeing my little daughter's happy face again, the unpleasant things were revealed and everything was clear. There is another boy in the Mo family who is about the same age as Chen Wenliang. When he saw the 2 beautiful sisters, he blushed even though he was not doing anything. Chen Wenliang is a bad boy, winking and teasing him secretly. The 2 teenagers ran to the side and started playing around. When Mr. Mo heard that Chen Wenxi was going to deal with his eldest sister's affairs after his 15th birthday, he asked a few questions seriously. Chen Wenxi was able to answer the questions. It seemed that he was well prepared. He nodded with satisfaction and said to Uncle Chen, before Wenxi, I was a little vain, my thoughts were confused, and the main line was not clear. Just after I heard what he said, it became much clearer. After this trip, the eldest sister's matter can be solved, and he will be pragmatic, and there is a significant improvement. This is a good idea. Uncle Chen also nodded. It's just that the journey is long, so pay attention to safety. And one more thing, as long as people are safe, don't worry about dowry and property. Yes, Chen Wenxi replied respectfully. Lord Mo turned to Wenyu and smiled, I saw your future husband-in-law that day. He was so shocked. Even an old man like me is very rare. Girl, you, be careful when you go out. If you want to follow, there are many people who are fighting for you. The Chi family is so powerful that they don't dare to do anything, but they can still harm you. After hearing this, Mrsmo said softly, Father is right. Among the noble girls in the capital, there are some who are thoughtful, and some who are simple and rude. Because they do not have to bear serious consequences. Besides, among men, there are also very unbearable ones, so sister, you really need to pay attention. Uncle Chen was frightened when he heard this. Sir, what should I do? There are still a few months until you get married, so don't go to a family you are not familiar with. When you marry into the Chi family and your status changes, others will be wary of what they think. Mrsmo said, bring the right people with you. Be careful when eating and drinking. Don't go to strange places alone. Don't go with unfamiliar people either. Mrsmo sighed, I have never encountered what you are talking about. How can it be so scary? Mrsmo started her career from the bottom with her husband, and has very little experience in high-level affairs. But my daughter-in-law is from Beijing circles, and she has a close friend who is always inquisitive, so she basically knows everything that happens. Be careful and you'll never go too far. Well, Kanur. Mrsmo was worried and called her daughter-in-law, go and talk to some girls over there. Mrsmo was also a good gossip, so she led a few girls to chat nearby with a proud expression. Not to mention Yanzu, who was making a fuss, even when you found it strange to hear many things. When he returned home, when you called Laba over. Fifth young master didn't explain clearly. What kind of banquet is in the East Palace on the 6th day of the 6th lunar month? I don't know this clearly. Can I go down and ask? As soon as you ask, does that person know it? Forget it. What does the girl want to know? I heard something that the elder sister-in-law of the Mo family said today, and I feel a little uneasy. Why does my grandson want to see me? This Laba knows. His Royal Highness Taijun attaches great importance to young Master Qi. He probably wants to see if you are worthy of him. When you said to her heart, she is not my mother-in-law, so why should I judge whether I am worthy or not? So what if it's not worthy? My mother-in-law is happy. Where are His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and the Crown Princess, when you did not dare to be disrespectful when mentioning this? Your Highness, the Crown Prince, saved the Emperor from a disaster in his early years. He was a little weak. The Emperor felt sorry for him. The Crown Princess is very capable. Your Highness, the Grand Sunday. We are all afraid of him. Are you still afraid, when you had already seen Laba's reckless temperament? I'm really scared. I won't lie to you. Concubine Taijun. Laba curled his lips. I haven't had any contact with her, but I heard that she is not easy to get along with. I also heard that she did a lot of wrong things, and the boss found out about them. But what? I didn't ask. When you looked at her speechlessly. In your profession, can you ask about this blindly? However, if she doesn't ask, what do I know? Laba, you didn't even have a holiday during the Chinese New Year. I'll get you some money later and ask your senior brothers and sisters to have a good New Year. Really? That's great. We are very poor. Sometimes we have silver, sometimes we don't. I still have to go to the girl. I saved a lot of silver. But last time I went back, I lent it to my senior brother. Your senior brother still asks you to borrow money. He has found his family and needs help. I haven't asked you yet, Laba, where is your family? I am an orphan, raised by my master. Oh, you must have done a lot of money handling matters. Why are your lives so hard? There was a lot of money passed by, but I didn't dare to keep it, so I was on the boat last time. Oops, I almost told the story about the two men. I picked up some money on the boat and handed it over when I came back. If you don't hand it over, you'll be in big trouble if you find out later. That's okay if you don't bring any money back, you can think about what your senior brothers and sisters need and go buy them directly. You won't have to hand them over, right? I'll provide you with more money and book a restaurant for you to eat and drink. Girl, you are so kind. I want to thank you on behalf of my senior brother and sister. Laba narrowed his eyes happily, and he really didn't mean it. Does the grandson not care about the concubine about what you just said? The grandson was very angry, but the princess protected him. But if we really want to pursue the case, will the crown princess not pursue her son, but her niece? I don't know about this. However, the grandson doesn't want the prince to know about these things. So, it's better not to make a fuss. Clear? Girl, what MRSMO said makes sense. I've heard it and seen it. You have to be careful. Just like going to the East Palace, the East Palace is very big, with many houses, ponds, and passages. The guards in the East Palace are not vegetarians. Yes, if the crown princess and grand concubine want to do something, I'm afraid I can't help them, so you have to be careful when eating and drinking. If you say so, it's like a dragon's pond and a tiger's den. Will Mr. Chiwu be there? He will be there. If MRSG goes, you will be fine if you follow her. Oh, is MRSG so powerful? Yes. I heard that when my wife was young, she would beat people. Moreover, MRSG has a father and brothers who are very powerful. Who dares to provoke her? That's something I don't dare to mess with. End of this chapter. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 165. On the 6th day of the Lunar New Year, Wen Yu and MRS Wen went to the East Palace. Wen Jiao and the others were disappointed that we didn't bring any other girls with us this time. To hide her embarrassment, MRS Yun also left the house early in the morning. At this moment, on the one hand, she regretted her rivalry with the old lady, but on the other hand, the knot in her heart deepened. Wen Yu went to the East Palace, and MRS Wen had nothing to give her. Last night, I asked Nanny Song to bring me a set of Dongja jewelry. It was one of the items at the bottom of her box. Much better than what I gave last time. Wen Yu accepted it politely. Today he only chose 2 Dongju earrings and put them on. On her head, she inserted a few flowers that girls love in the season, and put on spring clothes. Clothes and jewelry, just make sure they are not shabby or rude, there is no need to dress up deliberately. Since this was the case, MRS Wen's eyes lit up when she saw him. The key point is, her beauty lies in the second place. She is not in a hurry. After seeing her, well, she is indeed a bit like me. She thought shamelessly. On the way, I just talked to Wen Yu about some things that were not there. It was obvious that I wanted to ease the relationship. Wen Yu smiled and followed it, but the old lady couldn't figure out what the granddaughter was thinking. At the gate of the East Palace, there were 2 layers of guards and female officers. They looked at the 2 of them, checked the posts, and without saying much, made a gesture of inviting people in and let them go. Wen Yu brings Labo with him. Next to MRS Wen is a girl who behaves steadily. Enter the gate and walked along the wide passage for a long time before entering the second gate. As soon as we entered, it was lively. There were many people standing on the roadside, in pavilions and along the garden corridor. Today, the weather is fine, the sun is shining, and it is very warm. The garden is full of golden spring flowers in large vats. The willow trees and the grass on the sunny ground are also green. It is full of spring spirit. The scenery here is good and the environment is relaxing. So no one was in a hurry to enter the palace, meet acquaintances, and chat and laugh while walking around. Of course, most of them are young people. The Prince of Yongqing County is also there, with several friends around. Some even brought their own sisters, who didn't know what they were talking about, and it was very lively. He was smiling when he saw a girl who looked like a delicate flower passing by. Recognized, the Wen family's daughter whom I met on the boat. This time I am closer and can see it more clearly. Oh, she is so beautiful. I scratched my head a few times, but just a little bit. She was mine, that would be great. She walked leisurely, looking at the flowers and people, with a relaxed expression on her face, not pretending to be dignified. There was a woman following. Why didn't he bring the girl in the red cloak? I have been too busy recently. I checked it twice and failed to find it, so I stopped caring about it. How can we find out? I'll finish my business in a while and find a chance to talk to her. Hey, who are you looking at? Someone next to him poked him, his voice greasy. The person who spoke was Li Duozhen, a famous young man from the third generation of the Xingguo Gong family in the capital. Because there is a lack of gold in his life, everyone calls him Gold. Prince Yongqing was very upset, but this person was also considered a relative of the emperor, and his grandfather was one of the few relatives of the emperor's grandfather, and he treasured gold very much. So, I have to deal with Jinzi. I saw Wenyu and his eyes were like hooks. I've never seen such a beautiful little lady. Ask who it is. He was about to go over. Yongqing pulled him and said, don't be ridiculous, this is Qi Yang's fiancée. Really? Qi Wu is very beautiful himself, but he still wants to find someone so good looking? It's really too much, if the two of them stand together. Jin Jin touched his chin with a wretched look on his face. Yongqing snorted coldly in his heart. He heard that this man was not afraid of being cold, and that both men and women were welcome. I am already 25 years old, and there are so many people around me, but not a single child is left. There are always people looking at Wenyu on the street, and they are very serious. This made Mrs. Wen a little nervous. The Wen family came from a low background and did not dare to be too ostentatious. I just look forward to seeing MRSG as soon as possible. There were already many people in the main hall, and it was very quiet. Mrs. Wen gently pointed to a relatively remote place. Wenyu nodded, smiled, and saluted everyone around her, and then helped the old lady sit down. Looking around quietly, I didn't recognize anyone around me. I didn't see MRSG. Hasn't she come yet? Looking at it, there is a gate in the temple, and people are coming in and out. Maybe she is inside. MRSG did arrive late. The Qi family has been in chaos for several days. When the Kui family came back, MRSU cried all night. The next day, MRS 10 called her to comfort her. Then he called Qi Xiao over. This time, MRS 10 was very serious and scolded Qi Xiao for a long time. Su was so moved, grandmother made the decision for her. Mr. 10 is very good at it, sometimes he is hard and sometimes he is soft, sometimes he praises and sometimes he criticizes. Finally, he held each other's hands and forced them to make peace. Qi Xiao and Su made amends with each other. This matter is over. When Bauer came back, he took a few dolls, as if he loved them. Hold it next to your pillow when sleeping, and carry it with you wherever you go. The more Su looked at it, the more dissatisfied it became, so he found a fault and put it away. Bauer doesn't want to do it, he has to grind it out. If you don't get it, cry. There is no point in crying, just make a fuss. MRSU took a look. Why does this girl have nothing else? There is no end to the trouble over this trivial matter. Her anger rose again. Finally, in front of Bauer, he used scissors to cut off all the puppets. Now Bauer doesn't want to do it anymore, the little girl is also a hot-tempered one. She cried until she vomited, and finally fainted. This time, MRSU was frightened to death. She pinched him, slapped him on the back, and asked for a doctor. Chi Xiao was called back. When he saw the tatters on the ground and his daughter who had fainted, he actually quarreled with Mrsu again. Finally, Mrsg was alarmed. Mrsg came. Without saying a word, she directed people to move Bao into her room. But how could Mr. Su be willing? Try to stop him. Can she stop what Mrsg wants to do? So he fell to the ground, either dead or alive. The scene was so shocking that Chi Xiao felt sad when he saw it, and turned to his wife again, accusing Mrsg of being so cruel that she separated the flesh and blood of mother and daughter. As a result, Mrsg sneered, "Chi Xiao, the Chi family has this tradition. You have experienced it yourself. Aren't you always happy to grow up next to your closest grandmother? Why should I do this? A bunch of charges." Chi Xiao subconsciously objected, "I didn't. Nothing. You respect your grandmother, why don't you ask her, how did she take you away in the first place? What kind of family ties did she talk to me about? If you still don't understand, you can also ask your father, he is what kind of reasoning and rules are you telling me? Oh, everyone can do it, but why am I dissatisfied?" Regardless of Sue's heartbreaking obstruction, Bauer was taken away. Husband. Mrsu pointed at Mrsg's back, and she fainted in excitement. Mrsg returned to the house and sent someone to ask for the doctor. She also asked her men to ride horses to Wenyu's yard and asked for 2 stuffed dolls. After waking up Bauer, the puppet was in his arms, very happy. But he is a child after all, and he actually got a fever after such a hard time. At this time, even Mrs10 was alarmed and came to Mrsg's yard in person. In the name of needing some rest, Mrsg closed the courtyard door and refused to let anyone in. Ms10 was heartbroken. Finally, Chi Yuyi came and was so angry that he even wanted to kick down the door. Mrsg said coldly in the yard, "If you want something to happen to Bauer during the Chinese New Year, just kick him again." Chi Yuyi raised his foot, but it was difficult to kick it down. It was extremely embarrassing. After drinking a dose of the medicine, Bauer's health has improved and his fever has subsided. Holding the doll in his arms, he said softly to Mrsg, "Aunt Yuan's doll is small, only 3 colors. This one in her arms, bigger, better. Grandma, take Bauer to my great-grandfather's house. I want to show it to my aunt." Mrsg looked at her soft eldest grandson daughter, and she felt so much love in her heart. "You are so young, why are you so angry? You can't cry anymore in the future. You have to take medicine when you are sick. The medicine is dark and bitter. How unpleasant is it to eat?" Yes, Bauer agreed obediently. The child is young and not yet too crooked. This can't go on like this. I hope everything can change if Wenyu comes in. Tan and Chi Yuyi didn't get anything done, so they left with a frown. Chi Xiao and Su were completely dumbfounded. Finally, he admitted his mistake at the courtyard gate and begged. When Bao recovers, he will also look for her mother. Mrsg was getting ready to go out, and standing there, the girl was doing her makeup. He brought the couple in and said calmly, "Chi Xiao, your wife always says that I look down on her. See for yourself, is she worthy of my respect? But after all, it's just playing lewd to a cow. Mrsu, this is the last time. If you dare again, don't blame me for being ruthless if you use Bao to realize your evil intentions." From the beginning to the end, he never looked at Chi Xiao and his wife. She looked at herself in the mirror and thought, "Well, that's good. My little daughter-in-law is still waiting." I tossed my sleeves and left. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 166. Wen Yu sat quietly waiting for MRSG to come and look for her. Secretly thinking, I don't know what that grandson wants to think of me. It's really annoying. She is low-key and doesn't want to cause trouble. But the problem still came to her. The concubine's name is Shui Ying. Let's talk about it. I am somewhat related to Su Minghui's ancestor. Later, the Su family fell into decline, and they didn't have much contact with them. But the two people look quite similar. They are all bright and colorful. It's just that Shui Ying was well dressed and well fed in her boudoir, and after she got married, and she was even more squeamish and arrogant. She had several good friends, one of whom was Zhang Jinjin, who was married to the prince consort's house. She was bored when she saw Wen Yu. She didn't even recognize such an appearance. Just ask around. But the Wen family is really not famous, so I only found out after asking the boss around. Oh, it turns out that this is Qi Wulang's fiancé. Thinking of the dashing figure on a horse, standing with the girl in front of me, how enviable it is. Maliciousness suddenly arises in my heart. She, or the people in her circle, do things regardless of the consequences and only act according to their intentions. With someone like the Wen family, she would not hesitate to do anything she wanted to do. Stood up and went to the back hall. The crown princess is standing next to the crown princess, talking to someone. Mr. Zhang winked at the door. Concubine Taijun saw it and came out quietly. Mother, there is someone I don't like, please help me deal with it. Who do you dislike again? Can you help me? Let's talk about it later. What day is it today? I have no shame in causing trouble. Things are getting smoother and smoother for you, why are you so careful? You don't know, several princesses are here, if we make a fuss, my aunt won't be in a hurry with me. It doesn't matter, just let her embarrass herself. Who is it? That little known girl from the Wen family. Seeing that the grandson didn't react for a moment, she said, the fiancé of the fifth young master of the Qi family. Qi Wulang, has she recruited you? The concubine was a little hesitant. Qi Wulang's background and current circumstances would cause trouble. My dear, I don't like that girl's vixen-like appearance. This best friend has helped me a lot. Seeing her persistence, the concubine didn't think much about it. You are really troublesome, what do you want me to do? You can arrange for the female officer to call her to the aisle, and I'll find a way to make her look disgraced. Concubine Taijun said no more, nodded her hand and called someone over, and said to Madame Zhang, you said this. Just make fun of it, don't let it end. Liu Yi, listen to her. Pay attention to your propriety. Don't make a fuss. Mr. Zhang smiled, turned around and whispered a few words to her maid. Jin Zi was bragging to someone. The girl went over and said something to him. His eyes lit up. Real? When did I lie to you? Okay, I'll go. Seeing that he was leaving, Prince Yongqing asked, where are you going? There's something good going on, let's go together. Looking at his that was on fire and rough, Prince Yongqing frowned and said, I still have to wait here for someone. You go and come back quickly. Quickly. Jin Zi smiled mischievously, with a deep meaning, maybe not, too fast. A person who looked like a female official came over and asked softly, but the old lady of the Wen family and Miss Wen Yu. Old Mrs. Wen and Wen Yu stood up quickly. Old Mrs. Wen said, we are from the Wen family, and this is Le Sheng's eldest granddaughter, Wen Yu. The female officer smiled, but her voice was still very low, my dear concubine, I would like to invite Miss Wen Yu to come over and talk. Old Mrs. Wen was happy when she heard this. Wen Yu suddenly thought, is something really wrong with me? She pretended to be surprised and opened her mouth to say, the grand concubine is looking for me? My lord, are you not mistaken? The female officer was startled by Wen Yu's voice. Who here speaks so loudly? There are really no rules. The female official's face darkened, and she put on a domineering look, but her voice was still low. "Miss, didn't you understand what I just said?" "I don't understand," Wen Yu replied seriously. "What's wrong with this girl?" Mrs. Wen was worried and just wanted to speak. Wen Yu kept supporting her and pinched her hard. "Old Mrs. Wen. It hurts a lot." But this also made her suspicious. Could something be wrong? The female officer's eyes were cold. This woman is not taking the usual path. "You don't understand, so I'll say it again, the grand concubine is here to invite you." But when you still didn't understand, Empress Taizhen has a noble status, and she is not an old acquaintance with Wen Yu. Wen Yu is a young woman with an ordinary background. There are so many distinguished guests today, how can Empress Taizhen talk to Wen Yu alone? "My lord, are you mistaken?" Everyone around looked over. Some even approached quietly. "Miss Wen, it seems that you really don't understand the rules." The female officer was very angry. "Wen Yu didn't care, to be honest, sir. This is the first time Wen Yu has entered the royal gate. The Wen family has an ordinary family background. Let alone being fluent, they are not exposed to these rules." As soon as the sir said this, Wen Yu was confused. "My lord, please don't blame me." "My lord, are you saying that your concubine wants to meet our grandson and grandson?" Now, everyone around heard it. The female officer was really angry. "Since you don't understand, just listen to what I say. Miss Wen, you are alone, come with me." She made a strong please gesture. Old Mrs. Wen knew something was wrong and her face turned pale. Although she usually dares to act arrogant, she doesn't have the courage here. "People around me also feel something is wrong." But no one dared to talk. The one who was slowly approaching was now slowly moving away. Two maids looked at each other, and one of them went out. Having spoken, Wen Yu could not say, "Laba, come with me." The female officer wanted to stop Laba from going, but then she thought, "We won't be able to send a girl to our territory for a while. We can't dwell on this anymore." So, Wen Yu took Laba and followed the female officer out, turned left and then left, and walked back. The grandson in the front is accompanying the prince to receive guests. He had already sent someone to ask before Chi Wu came. At this time, Xuani'er, the handsome little beside him, came over and whispered a few words. The smile on Taizhen's face did not change, but he was filled with anger and hatred. What is that doing again? Check the reason. That girl from the Wen family, try her weight first, just don't really get into trouble. I'll be there right away. Wen Yu and Labo followed the female officer. It would be a lie to say that she is not nervous, but her expression remains the same. Laba supported her and said softly, "Girl, don't worry too much. There are subordinates and grandson here, so they won't let anything happen to you at home." Wen Yu nodded. Walking a little further, there was no one around. There is a Taoist gate ahead. The female official must take her out. Wen Yu stood still and said, "My lord, we are going out of the courtyard. I don't understand the royal rules, but even if you are a guest in an ordinary person's house, you don't go to their backyard at will. You are playing tricks on the little girl." "Bar. Am I teasing you?" The female official turned around, very aggressively. "Isn't it? There are so many guests here, who dares to go forward through this door? I am taking you there, just follow me." "That's not what you said. If you make a mistake, you will make me make a mistake too." "Ah, this is not a mistake. Breaking into the East Palace without permission must be a serious crime." "What kind of crime is this under the new year?" "I can't say it." "You," the female officer was very angry. "As soon as you exit the door, there is a small corridor. After turning left and right twice, you will find a long corridor, which is rarely visited on weekdays. Zhang was hiding on the other side of the corridor. As for the gold, the cat is in the aisle." Mrs. Zhang heard them arrive at the door, but instead of coming in, she kept talking there. I felt anxious, secretly blaming the female official for being useless. Beside her, there were two eunuchs and the palace daughter hiding, and she winked. A few people walked over and stood beside the female officer. The female officer looked at Wen Yu's master and servant with a sneer on her face. Laba didn't want to reveal his identity, but he couldn't do it now. So, he let go of the hand holding Wen Yu and was about to step forward. But at this moment, two little maids suddenly came from the front and went back. I was a little surprised to see several people here. If you don't want to get into trouble, keep walking back. One of them, passing by Wen Yu, took a curious look. Stopped for a moment, blinked, and carefully identified. Then, she said hesitantly, "Yes, Miss Wen. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart." Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 167. Hearing the palace maid ask, Wen Yu subconsciously replied, "My surname is Wen." Hearing this slightly familiar tone, the palace maid became excited. "Miss Wen? Is it really you? Are you?" Wen Yu pulled away from the tension and looked carefully. "Little Loach." The palace daughter blushed and said, "Girl. My name is Chiur." "It's really you," Wen Yu was shocked. Chiur didn't care to answer, and excitedly said to the palace daughter next to her, "Go and tell the girl that I have seen Miss Wen." The palace maid replied, "I'm going back with the concubine." However, she left in a hurry. The female officer was a little surprised, hesitated, and was very impatient. "Which courtyard are you from? Haven't you seen me? What are the rules?" Chiur replied, "I don't know what to call aunt. This Miss Wen is a good friend of our concubine." He spoke warmly but in a weak voice. "Chiur, who do you think is the concubine?" "Ping Ting." And the grandson, who was led by his men, climbed over the wall, and came through the secret door, saw the scene as soon as he arrived. "What's happening here?" He pointed at the little Loach and looked at the people around him suspiciously. The handsome Xiao Shuani next to him blinked and didn't recognize him. Chiur said to Wen Yu, "Miss Wen, my girl entered the East Palace half a year ago and is now the concubine of the grandson." After hearing this, the grandson became even more confused. "Concubine? Oh yes. I remembered. 6 months ago, he had a new concubine, the daughter of a general's family. At the time she came in, her father was in poor health. Even on the day he entered the house, he accompanied and looked after his father. With her, we didn't even get married. After that, it was forgotten." Of course, Shui Ying would not remind her of this kind of thing, let alone arrange it. "Do you recognize Wen Yu and the general's concubine? What a mess." The female official said sternly, "From Zhonghuan courtyard? Go and do what you have to do. The grand concubine is waiting for Wen Yu." Wen Yu dilly-dallied for a long time, partly because he didn't want to get into big trouble and was waiting for MRSG to come to the rescue. On the other hand, Laba cannot be exposed easily. If you bring such a man to the East Palace, it will be a big deal for someone to take advantage of you. At this moment, although I heard the news about my old friend, I felt excited. But he also wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. "My lord, please don't worry. If I'm not mistaken, concubine is Wen Yu's friend who hasn't seen him for many years. Since a sister just went to invite concubine, can you wait a moment? Miss Wen, this is the East Palace. When the grandson empress speaks, the concubine must step aside." The female officer knew that things would not work out today, but she couldn't just let it go. "But you see, I'm so excited right now." When you couldn't hide it, tears were streaming down her face, and she was a little sobbing. "I'm afraid it will be rude for someone who is celebrating the new year to meet the grandson empress like this. That female official is so annoyed. Why is this man so boring? How courageous! She has not been able to handle such a small thing. The grand concubine is not easy to talk to. Miss Wen, she waved her hand, and 2 eunuchs and 2 maids came over. Should you go alone, or should I invite you? One of them even stood next to Chiur. What kind of invitation is this? We need to do it directly. Wen Yu was indeed shocked, although he had heard from MRSMO and Labo before and was prepared. But I didn't expect that the Taizhun Empress of the East Palace would act in such a simple and crude manner. Little Loach, why do I feel something is wrong? Are these people from the East Palace? When I first arrived in the capital, I heard that His Highness the Crown Prince was kind, and that the Crown Princess was wise and kind. It was rare to hear about the grandson Empress, but now, these people are pretending to be the grand concubine, but they are acting like bandits. Could it be that? No, she must be a fake. Chiur said, Miss Wen, I have been in the palace with my concubine for half a year, but I really don't recognize this female official. She was right. She doesn't go out to the hospital on weekdays. How can she recognize him? It's true. Come here quickly. There are assassins. When you pulled Chiur and jumped back, letting Labo stand in front of him. Labo pushed and blocked him clumsily, and those few people couldn't reach Wen Yu for a while. Tai Shun looked at it without blinking. This woman is really courageous. How dare you? How dare you make a noise in the East Palace? The female official was anxious. The Empress Dowager Sun said she couldn't make any noise. If you dare to use force, I will scream. Invite people around to see how the dignified East Palace treats visitors. You also know that this is the East Palace, and you don't think about yourself or the Wen family, the female official threatened. But can this threaten Wen Yu? Besides herself, she also wished that something happened to the Wen family. We, the Wen family, may not have a high position, but we are proud. For some unknown reason, the daughter of the family disappeared in the East Palace. It's you who should be worried. The grandson's face was dark and turned green. Even though Shui Ying is hateful, she grew up with her as a child. On weekdays, I feel like she is only jealous. Although the death of the previously pregnant concubine was her own fault. There are a few more, but that's also the case. She doesn't want anyone else to give birth to my child. To be honest, this is not uncommon in the royal family. But the idea of killing her came to Taizhun's mind for the first time. The female officer was also hesitant. She didn't make the right move every step of the way. How could it end without being punished? But at this moment, footsteps came in a hurry. Although her steps were hurried, her voice was steady. What are you urging me for? How can she die? Chiur read that right. Is it really Wen Yu, that silly girl? As soon as Wen Yu heard this, he said, Ping ting. At the door, a woman in palace attire appeared, with a face like a silver plate, flat eyebrows and almond-shaped eyes, and a slightly plump body. Standing there generously, looking at Wen Yu. It's really you. Ping ting. Wen Yu bypassed everyone, rushed over, and bumped into her arms. The woman frowned in disgust and pushed her away. Okay. He almost knocked me down. Why are you still so rough? You are so gentle, why are you here? The voice and attitude are so bad. The gentle words were ignored. I miss you so much. Okay, stop being so stupid. Why are there so many people here? The female official was not afraid at all. The concubine, the grandson concubine, will invite this Miss Wen to come over. Really? Well, let me, my concubine, go meet the Empress together. The concubine, the female official said with a smile, but not a smile. The concubine will only let Miss Wen pass by herself. On this day, wasn't the Crown Princess accompanying the Crown Princess to entertain the guests? How could she still have the time to drag a female guest to the backyard? If it hadn't happened in the East Palace, I would have thought it was some Shan Your Majesty. You are trying to grab Mrs. Yazai. Wen Yu almost laughed after hearing this. Yes, this is Zhang Pingting. Be careful what you say to your concubine, the female official said sternly. Chiu'er, go and invite Ning Ning. Ning Nuguan is the first female official around the crown princess. Stop, the female officer was completely panicked. Since Miss Wen and the general's concubine are old friends, let's get together first. I'll go back to the empress and make arrangements later. After saying that, he gave Wen Yu a hateful look and led the others away. Zhang Pingting snorted coldly and said warmly, we haven't seen you for many years. When we see you, you are causing trouble. I was wronged, Okay, let's talk about it. Back to my place. Wen Yu took 2 steps and then said, wait. Laba. Laba came over. Wen Yu whispered a few words, and the concubine was taken away. Taijun smiled and said, what a scene of old friends recognizing each other. Your Highness, come and have a look. The fire of gossip was burning in Chuan Er's eyes. Okay, look. 19, clear the road. Wen Yu followed Zhang Pingting and felt like she was dreaming. She, Zhang Pingting and Lan Fang are the 3 best friends. Zhang Pingting has an uncle who loves to play and often takes a group of young people to the tea house to listen to books. At that time, the 3 of them were young and stupid, and they followed others' sworn vows. Zhang Pingting is the eldest brother, she is the second brother, and Lan Fang is the third brother. Names, Lu, Guan, Zhang. 3 brothers. Later on, when I got older, I really understood the difference between men and women. Not long after, we arrived at Zhang Pingting's courtyard and went directly into the greenhouse. Before she could sit down, Wen Yu said, Pingting, A Fang is dead. What did you say? Zhang Pingting's eyes narrowed. Wen Yu's tears burst out. Someone entered the courtyard from behind and knocked 2 of them unconscious. The road is clear. Taijun walked in and listened to the window to follow. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 168. Ahead, MRSG arrived. MRS Wen was waiting for her anxiously. She hurried over and told her what had just happened. MRSG was startled. Don't worry, are you sure that the person said it was the grandson empress who wanted to invite Wen Yu? Yes. Wen Yu asked twice more, and the female officer always said this. I'll ask. MRSG turned around and went directly to the inner hall. Seated in the inner hall were the crown princess, Princess Wu, and several others. I don't know who said what, but everyone was laughing. MRSG went in and saluted the princesses first. Crown princess, princesses. Actually, most of the princesses have known MRSG since they were children. Princess Yun had a good relationship with her. She smiled and asked, Feng Ying, why are you here? Some things have been delayed. Concubine, I heard that you called away my unmarried daughter-in-law. MRSG didn't waste any time and asked directly. As soon as concubine Taijun saw MRSG coming in, she remembered what happened to Zhang Jinjin just now. Why hadn't she gone back to her yet? What had happened? When asked, I felt a little guilty and didn't know how to answer. The crown princess didn't care, because today, her niece and daughter-in-law had been by her side and would not conflict with the Wen family girl. So, he asked with a smile, why, the beautiful daughter-in-law can't be found. MRSG looked at the crown princess with a normal expression, but the grand concubine's expression changed. 80% of it was caused by Shui Ying. Concubine, please ask the female officer under you. I have something urgent to do and I want to find her. The grand concubine forced a smile and said, Madam, come with me. She did not dare to stay here, so she took MRSG out of the side door. As soon as she left the house, MRSG's face dropped. Did you call Wen Yu away? No. I'll ask the female officer under me if I made a mistake. Concubine Taejun decisively passed the blame. Concubine, as royal people, the crown prince and the crown princess are both very admirable. On a day like today, what are they doing? And you don't even know what the female officers under you are doing, indeed. I'm a little disappointed. I hope Wen Yu is okay. Otherwise. She stared at the concubine. What do you mean? Concubine Taejun's face was serious, and she became confrontational. That's what you think it means. MRSG was not afraid at all. Do you know who you are talking to? Concubine Taejun was anxious. Follow you, Shui Ying. Help me find someone quickly, and hope she is okay. MRSG gave her a steady look and left. Concubine Taejun just watched MRSG leave without daring to get angry or stop her. Except for the queen, she will restrain herself. Even if you are wronged, you can endure it. I have never experienced this with others. She was trembling with anger. What's so great about you? Just wait for me, one day, I will kill you all over the house. There was no one around, she whispered. He spoke softly, like pouring beans out of a bamboo tube, and talked about Lu Lanfang angrily. Jian Pingting was stunned for a long time and also shed tears. The two were relatively silent for a moment. He wiped Pingting's tears and said, "Okay, don't cry. How did you arrange Lanzhou when you brought it here?" "I bought a small courtyard, and now it is Yanzhou, the same Hengdu who used to be next to me. She is taking Lanzhou with her." Zhang Pingting nodded and helped Wen Yu tidy up her hair. "Ayu, your performance surprised me. I always thought you were indecisive and worried about things you couldn't remember. But this matter, from beginning to end, I thought Wei, brave, decisive, and strong. He has finally grown up, which is great. She has always been disliked, but this time she was finally affirmed." Wen Yu was very happy. "I'm different from before. Why are you here?" "Oh, it's hard to describe it in words. Back then, I left Zhangzhou with my grandfather and father and moved around a few places. Then I followed my mother and aunt to Beijing. My grandfather, father, and uncle were always away from home. I am so busy with disaster relief and water conservancy work that I cannot return to Beijing. We lived a good life, but half a year ago, out of nowhere, I was made the grandson's concubine. At that time, only my brothers were at home. However, even if my grandfather and father were here, there might not be anything I could do. Anyway, I entered the East Palace soon. 3 months later, my grandfather and father returned. Awarded by the emperor, promoted, given power, that's it. Oh, Grandpa Zhang and Uncle Zhang are so capable. Isn't the official very big? Pingting, you don't want to be a concubine, right? Of course not." The great-grandson listened with great interest to the story of the Lu family siblings, secretly sighing that this girl really has 2 brushes. "I heard Zhang Pingting look like she disliked being her concubine." He raised his eyebrows, feeling angry. "I've also heard that the great-grandchildren have different temperaments." When you said. Taejun cursed secretly. "Who are you listening to? Let's not talk about this for now." "Why are you here?" Zhang Pingting asked. "My father has also been promoted. He has entered Beijing. The whole family is here," Wen Yu said in a calm tone. "It's not bad that MRS Wen and MRS Yun can bring you here." "What?" "I have made a marriage appointment in Zhangzhou, and they have to take me with me." "Are you engaged? With whom?" "Qi Wulang." "Who is that?" asked the concubine. "You don't even know him." "Why should I know?" "Oh, it's a hot topic in Beijing these days, when you couldn't tell what his attitude should be. Otherwise, would something like this happen to me today? By the way, what happened just now?" "I won't ask you any more, just tell it from the beginning." The grandson thought to himself, how come this general's concubine is able to control such a gentle person? Wen Yu's emotions have been brewing and he is about to open his mouth. "Oh, Let me interrupt first. When you looked up and down at the concubine, I have to say, you girl, you are so pretty. Really, when you rubbed his face against Pingting's shoulder. Don't rub it blindly, the powder is all on my clothes. She was disliked again. Mother, the labo beside Miss Wen is here, the girl outside the door reported. Let her in. Laba came in and wanted to talk to Wen Yu. Wen Yu said, just say it, you are not an outsider. Sit the concubine firmly, looking unfazed. Girl, she should be the Zhang family from the prince consort's mansion. When you left Labo to inquire about the news. Her senior brother was nearby and told her quickly. After listening, the concubine and Wen Yu looked at each other, both speechless. This is the East Palace. No matter how the royal family is, aren't they always polite and hiding knives in secret? What about the Zhang family, Wen Yu wondered. She went into the inner courtyard to hide, but then there was chaos and she hid on the other side of the passage. Then you do this. Wen Yu gave a few instructions. Laba agreed and left. The concubine looked at her even more unexpectedly. You girl, you are really different. People say that you look older at the age of 3. I thought you, why do you seem to be a different person? When you smiled and talked about the past as briefly as possible. The concubine sighed, so, you have much more experience than me. My mother and aunt are in average health, and my brothers go to school and take exams. I am the housekeeper and live my life behind closed doors. I never associating with a stranger's family, so when the title of concubine fell on me, the whole family was stunned. Then, what do you think? You've already come in, what else can you do? After what happened just now, you still don't understand what the East Palace is like. His Royal Highness is noble and elegant, who would have thought that his back house would be in such a mess? Where is the crown princess? The Empress has to take care of the prince. I heard that she often goes to the study room in front of me. The concubine has been with the Empress since she was a child. She doesn't care if she does anything out of the ordinary. My former concubine was killed because she was pregnant. Ah, what should you do? When you was shocked. Don't worry, I'm not that easy to bully. Another thing, I'm not interested in a position or a child. I haven't consummated my marriage with my grandson for half a year since I entered the palace. I write something all day long, and my life is very refreshing. Well, yes, don't rush to consummate the marriage yet, maybe there will be some changes in the future. Taejun's inner thoughts, what changes will happen if she remarries after I die? Bah! These two women are still girls. Why are we even talking about consummating the marriage? Both of them are shameless. Oh my god, they are going to be twisted into a rope. Chi Wu and I are in trouble. He felt inexplicably flustered and left bitterly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 169. Zhang Pingting said to Wen Yu calmly. Here, I also live behind closed doors. I don't go to the concubine's place. Every 10 days, I show up when I greet the concubine. The concubine has a domineering temperament, but I have an ordinary appearance and don't. If you stay with your grandson, your life will be very easy. When you couldn't help but feel distressed, what about your great youth? Ew, take it one step at a time. If you can live a good life, of course you can't live a bad life. But if you don't live a good life, you can't just live a good life. Then can you go out on weekdays? It's not very convenient. Occasionally, I can go back to my parents' home. What a pity. After the new year, I'm going to open a shop. You have the best idea, and I'd like to ask you to help me take a look. You're welcome to do whatever you want me to do. I'll give you some money later. When my grandfather came back, he felt that he was in debt and made up a lot of dowry. But where can I use it? I don't have any enthusiasm for the moment. You can just use it. Oh, he's my eldest brother after all, that's so interesting, when you leaned on her shoulder. This time, I was not disliked. Lanjo, let him move to my house, let my mother take care of him. Zuzu takes good care of her. But she has to get married. Let's talk about it then. Hey, will you follow me to the front and meet MRSG? Okay, Zhang Pingting did not hesitate. Two people held hands and talked while walking. I feel like I can't finish saying that. Even though MRSG had an argument with the concubine, she also knew that something had really happened and it would be too late to say anything. She didn't know what method the other party used, she stood there blankly, full of anger and despair. Mother, Chi Wu came. Xiao Wu, MRSG was excited, tell her tenderly. Mother, she's okay. Really, MRSG felt that her back was soaked with sweat. It's true, my grandson has been following him when you met an old friend. Let's wait at the front, he will probably be here soon. Okay. It really scared me to death. My son, it's Shui Ying. MRSG gritted her teeth. Mother, don't say it here. Chi Wu supported her and walked forward. County Lord Hui came over, third sister, what's wrong with you? You're sweating. MRSG said, oh, I'm in a hurry. Where is Wen Yu? I want to introduce someone to her. I said I met an old friend and will come over soon. Third sister, how old is she? I also met an old friend. At this moment, a breaking news spread like wings. Jinzi, the eldest son of Duke Xingguo, and Zhang Jinjin, the eldest daughter-in-law of Prince Consort in Dahlia Shuhutong, had a tryst in the East Palace. The two of them were too happy and made a huge noise, and were discovered by Taizhun's guards. Reported to the grandson and caught him. The grandson was furious and took the gold with disheveled clothes back to the duke's mansion. Let Zhang Jinjin's husband come and take her back. When the concubine heard this, she was shocked. How could Zhang Jinjin have a tryst with Jin Zi? She is not. I just wanted to defend her. A few words. The crown princess glanced at her and she didn't dare to move. Then, the grandson arrived at the back and scolded the grandson in front of the princess, asking her how incompetent she was and how she guarded the house. He actually let people break into the back house of the East Palace to do lewd things. This was the first time that the grandson had scolded her without mercy, and the concubine cried when she was scolded. The crown princess looked at her son, silently, thinking in her mind. Perhaps the grandson had greeted the prince in advance. When the prince was talking to others, his expression remained unchanged and he did not mention this matter. The guest room exploded. Oh my God, really, how is this possible? Everyone was dumbfounded. Yeah, this is too outrageous. Zhang Jinjin already has two sons. With her status, how could she be willing to have a tryst with Jin Zi? Most people don't believe it and write conspiracy theories one after another. But someone stood up and clapped his chest to testify, I saw it with my own eyes, it was Zhang Jinjin's girl delivering the message to Jin Zi. Then, Jin Zi said, Hoa is in a hurry. He left. Prince Yongqing also saw it. Right, he even asked Prince Yongqing to testify. The prince of Yongqing County was so angry that his orifices were filled with smoke. Isn't that exactly what he saw with his own eyes? He believed it. He said calmly, there is a girl talking to Jin Zi, but I don't know who that girl is. I saw it too. Although I don't know who the girl is with, she is definitely not a palace maid. Everyone looked at it and said, sure enough. No wonder that time, someone started to make up a story. Yes, once, I was wondering, why? Various stories appear out of thin air. Everyone was shocked and happy. Madam, when you brought Zhang Pingting over. Seeing Wen Yu, MRSG was excited, Ayu, are you okay? Don't worry, madam, I'm fine. Let me introduce to madam, this is my good friend Zhang Pingting. She is the granddaughter of Mr. Zhang Yunkai and the daughter of Mr. Zhang Qian. We grew up together since childhood. Now she is the grandson's concubine. MRSG looked at the peaceful Zhang Pingting and said politely, concubine. Madam, you don't have to be polite. When you and I are good friends. Just call me Pingting in private. And this one, is Mr. Chi Wu. Chi Wu hasn't left yet. Zhang Pingting looked at Chi Wu and said. Oh my god, is this Wen Yu's future husband? All right, she. Chi Wu bowed according to the rules, concubine. Zhang Pingting nodded, Master Chi Wu. Then she turned to look at Wen Yu, the smile in her eyes clearly meant, you have earned it. Wen Yu is a little embarrassed. Wen Yu, old MRS Wen also came over hurriedly. In the past half day, she was like an ant on a hot pot, losing her usual strength. Grandma, Wen Yu didn't want to say more to her, who do you think this is? Old MRS Wen felt relieved when she saw Wen's smiling voice. Jian Wen I refers to a woman in palace attire, huh? Looks familiar? Zhang Pingting smiled and said nothing. Grandma, this is Sister Pingting, now, she is the grandson's concubine. When the old lady heard this, she was very excited, oh, I think she looks familiar. It's Miss Pingting, oh, look at my rules, she is the General Empress. Wish you a happy Empress, the flattery was obvious. Zhang Pingting nodded, old MRS Wen. I'm very happy to see Wen Yu, and the Wen family in the capital. After a few years, you became the Empress. The relationship between the Wen family became closer, and you and Wen Yu often played together. At that time, I felt that you were much more stable than the others. She is indeed the most promising. They are all queens. Look at their magnificence. Old MRS Wen smiled from ear to ear. It made Zhang Pingting laugh. Laba came over and told Wen Yu about the development of the situation. Wen Yu expressed satisfaction, can you enter the prince consort's mansion? If there is any news, spread it out in an exaggerated way. Yes. County Princess Wei also came to meet with Zhang Pingting, and murmured to MRSG, this Lady Zhang, at such a young age, is quite stable. No, she is 100 times better than Shui Ying. I have something else to tell you later. MRSG's eyes were cold. They have attracted many relationships of their own. For a time, this place also became a lively place. Taijun asked someone to the gold back to the Duke's mansion. His grandfather, the Duke, did not go to the East Palace today. He was playing with the birds at home. The eldest grandson was sent back in disheveled clothes. Before he could ask in detail, Jinzi's father came back in a hurry. Jinzi's father went to the East Palace today and was bragging to others when someone told him, your Jinzi had an affair with Zhang, the eldest daughter-in-law of the prince consort's mansion in Daliashuhutong, in the East Palace. He was caught by his grandson and escorted back. The government is over. Jinzi's father shouted, take him back, ouch, don't get hurt. He jumped up and ran away. When Xingguo Gong was young, he was severely exploited by the emperor several times. Although he doesn't take care of things much now, the emperor's lingering feelings are still there, so he is good to him. The old man's mind is quite normal. But his son and grandson. Jinzi's father was asking his son distressedly, are you not hurt? The son was acting recklessly in the East Palace, but the father was only worried about whether he was hurt. Jinzi adjusted his clothes angrily, no. Ah Jin, my father saw that girl from the Zhang family when she was a child. She is not good looking and she is not young anymore. How could you fall in love with her? I didn't. Jinzi felt wronged. But Jinzi's father didn't think he was wronged. Even if you want her, why bother running to the East Palace if you want her? This time, you are so shameless. This refers to the fact that the gold should not be used for fornication in the East Palace, rather than the fornication itself. Grandpa, Dad, Jin Zi was wronged. Ajin, did that girl from the Zhang family seduce you? His father had no principles. Oh, listen to me. Zhang Jinjin asked the girl to come and tell me that she could call Qi Yang's beautiful fiancé into the aisle and ask me to come forward and ruin that girl's reputation. Then this girl has to go in, our family is here. Grandpa, Dad, you don't know. That girl is a beauty that the capital has not seen in many years. If this is a good thing, I will definitely go. He looks like it's natural. Daddy Jinza listened to the story with excitement. Duke Xingguo was a little more solemn. Zhang family's dead girl, what is this? Want to trick the Duke's government? Why? He quickly thought, where did he offend that bitch's husband's family and her natal family? The Duke's wife is beautiful but has a dark heart. Author, see the peach fish again. Chapter 170. Gold won't sit down either, but just stands there gesticulating. She asked me to wait in the aisle. But after waiting for a long time, she didn't come. I heard a vague noise, and I couldn't get out. After a while, I heard some movement and turned around. Then I turned around. Zhang Jinjin ran into my arms with his clothes disheveled. Jinza's father slapped his thigh. I'm telling you, this girl seduced you. She has already taken a liking to you, so she made this plan just to get you. Duke Xingguo looked at his son, a little speechless. He knew his son was confused, but that was fine. The emperor is so smart. 3 generations of the Xingguo Duke's family have been extremely difficult for the heirs. What else can they ask for after that? Wealth and splendor can only be enjoyed by 1 generation. With the little information they have, no matter how much trouble they make, it's not a big deal. But today, making trouble in the East Palace, is indeed too much. There must be a reason, although I haven't thought of it yet. The old man has a lot on his mind. That's right, after listening to his father's analysis, Jin Zi also thought about it carefully. Don't say it, Dad, what you said makes sense. Otherwise, why would she do anything to Qi Wu's fiancé? Give it to me. Even if she likes Qi Wu's good looks, she can't get married if she messes up his marriage. My son is smart, he can see through it right away, right Dad? Jin Zi's dad asked Duke Xingguo. What happened next? Duke Xingguo asked with a grin. She has already run into my arms. I thought, wait for a long time, although she is not a beauty, and she has given birth to a child. But it is a pity not to take action when the arrow is on the string. So, I thought, and I gave in. But she still called. Why was she calling out? In the end, she was discovered by Taijun's people. No, I have to go find my great-grandson and explain this matter. I don't blame you at all. It was the woman who made the fuss. Jin Zi's father complained on his son's behalf. After a while, a servant came running in, extremely excited. My lord, my lord, my lord, there is news from the prince consort's mansion. Ms. Zhang was beaten by her husband when she came home. She was beaten and kicked badly. Even her brother called over and scolded her. As a result, guess what? I had a miscarriage. Ah, really? They didn't even think about it. How could such news come from the mansion? Yeah, how did it get spread? Of course it was Laba who sneaked in, found out, and spread the news. Not only the Duke's office, but also many families know about it. Huh, this woman is pregnant, and she wants to trouble you, Jin Zi's father yelled. Suddenly, his mind opened up and he asked, what's wrong with her? Is the baby in her belly yours? Jin Zi instinctively wants to shake his head, but there are many wives and concubines in the backyard of the house, but they are only passed down by 3 generations. This reputation is not good. In the past 2 years, There have been people who have been teasing him for only farming but not getting any crops. There are always people who are looking there at him intentionally or unintentionally. Seem to think that no. He is obviously very good at it. But how could there be no queen? I have seen a doctor and the doctor said it is very good. Jin Zi's father didn't remind him that he himself had been troubled by this problem when he grabbed the doctor's beard and beat him because he said something unpleasant. Now, which doctor dares to say that there is something wrong with the men in the Xingguo palace? Jin Zi thought he was very smart and rolled his eyes. What a good opportunity. What a good opportunity. Dad, the child in her belly is her son's. Duke Xingguo. He was stunned. Jin Zi got off to a good start, but things went smoothly from there. He and Zhang Jinjin were childhood sweethearts and had a long-standing love affair. It's no wonder that fate plays tricks on people. Having lovers, they never get married. Later, by chance, good things happened. He also described the meeting process in a very colorful way. Jin Zi is over 20 years old and he has a wife. His wife also comes from a decent family. She only married him as a last resort because of a family accident that made her life difficult. My wife is a housekeeper. But facing such a husband, there is really nothing we can do. My heart has long since died, and my greatest wish is to have a son and live by my son. But, I can't give birth. Not only could she not give birth, but there were so many in the backyard, and they couldn't give birth either. I have long suspected that it is the husband's problem. Today, she also went to the East Palace. When she came back with a blushing face, she was also listening to the window. At this moment, I was stunned to hear that my husband was acting like a storyteller. He is really good at making it up. If you put your mind on the right path, why worry about your future? This time, Zhang Jinjin made an appointment with me just to tell me that she is pregnant with my child. I have tens of thousands of dollars in banknotes with me, ready to raise her baby. The more the gold is told, the rounder the story becomes. It was as if he had experienced it himself. Duke Xingguo listened with a grin on his face. Although he didn't refute, he definitely didn't believe it. But after hearing this, Jin Zi's father slapped his thigh. It's exactly what I thought. No, I have to seek justice for my grandson. He ran away after saying this. Duke Xingguo called out, but he didn't come back, so he let him go. What a big deal. As soon as Jinzi saw that his father was gone, he also went. Dad Jin Zi is so stupid, he went directly to the prince consort's mansion in Daliasha to make a fuss, give my grandson his life. Looking like he was tricked by the prince consort. A group of people gathered around to watch the fun. The prince consort also fainted. How come he knew that Zhang Jinjin's fetus could not be saved? Do you really have a good face? Could it be that there is indeed adultery? But, even if you take 10,000 steps back, you can't be so confident. Zhang Jinjin is the wife of the prince consort. The princess is no longer alive. Although the prince consort's palace has not cooled down, after all, it is not as awesome as when the princess was alive. When nothing happens, life is also very glorious. But when I met a man from a poor family like Xingguo Gong. Hurry, they won't leave. Beat, they also brought people. Zhang Jinjin was already stupid. She just wanted to bully Wen Yu. It was not like she had never done this before. As a result, she became in the capital. She was beaten and had an abortion, but she could not defend herself. After a while, news came out that Zhang Jinjin was dead. After hearing this, Jin Zi's father felt bored and took his son home. Tell Duke Xingguo, Zhang Jinjin is dead. It's a pity that she ruined the reputation of gold. At this time, a master in the family had a bad hair, the duke of the country, the eldest master, that Zhang family has given birth to 2 sons before. Jinzi's father blinked and patted his thigh again. Dad. Those 2 sons are also from our family's gold, right? This time, Duke Lian Xingguo's little eyes lit up. This matter is reliable. Jin Zi's father shouted, those two sons are also from my family of gold, oh, my grandsons. He ran away again. This time, it must be said that the two sons of the prince consort are from his family. They are asked to recognize their ancestors and return to their clan. Duke Xingguo actually entered the palace, cried to the emperor, and demanded blood recognition. The emperor was stunned when he heard this, and his livid face turned to the queen. The queen's temperament is a bit uncertain to everyone. She didn't know how she managed to turn Zhang Jinjin's second child into a son of gold. Duke Xingguo laughed happily, the result is certain. I know that this is not my family's seed, so I have to come here first. After all, someone with a good background is better than someone with a shady background, right? Let's deal with it later when we have a relative. If not, then it's him. Be prepared in advance, don't let the incense burn out. Zhang Jinjin's husband pretended to be a cuckold, but after receiving the result, he left Beijing. The door to the house was closed and silence fell. The Duke of Xingguo personally hugged his great-grandson and returned home happily. He gave it to Jin Zi's wife and told him, treat him as if he were your own. The golden daughter-in-law is also very happy. Regardless of the truth, having it is better than nothing. She hugged her with a loving assurance on her face, my granddaughter-in-law must be taken care of as her own biological child. In just 2 or 3 days, the situation has changed like this. After hearing this, the crown princess was drenched in sweat. After thinking for a long time, she did not dare to tell the crown princess about this matter. I just secretly dismissed the female officer. The grandson scratched his head. He did not expect that Wen Yu would be so agile. And, this is how things turned out. This woman has such a dark heart. Chi Wu, how will you live with such a wife? I secretly made up my mind, when I take over the world, I will definitely save you from the sea of misery. Let's clear up the nonsense for all of you.